there's some older guys too. Carey Price was always probably my favorite guy to watch, or my favorite guy to try to emulate. Just his, I don't even know how to describe it, his like efficiency of movement, I guess you could say, how smooth he was. That at his size, he could be that fast and efficient, but it wasn't through like quick movements. It was through like smooth movements, and that was something that I really enjoyed watching and that I tried to copy as much as I could.
Is there something specifically Carey Price though that comes to mind? Like I see him growing up. He's just amazing at everything. He's one of those like totally well-rounded guys. Is there something specific that comes to mind for you?
Well,
more than surface level.
I think his movement is definitely his strength, I would say. Big, strong, powerful dude, but also like I just mentioned, he was very smooth in his movements, and that just saves a lot of time when you're when you're out there. You don't have really, like, it's down to milliseconds at times, right? And it's down to moving as little as possible and getting to your spots as efficiently as possible. And I always thought he was great at that, just like really simplifying movement, being super efficient, but being also like powerful within that efficient movement, and just like no wasted movement, and no wasted energy. And that obviously that's the name of the game.
What a shame his career got cut short though.
Yeah.
With the knee issues and.
Goaltending is an unnatural movement. That type of external rotation or internal rotation, I guess you call it, to do the butterfly and the aviation stuff. It's definitely unnatural, and definitely can wreak havoc on the body for sure.
Well, you want to get into that? Talk a little bit of hip surgery for a second?
Yeah, we can for sure. Yeah.
So I'm curious. You get the double done. I got single, and then I got single, which so I haven't talked about this publicly, but I got my second hip done about a month and a half ago at the time of recording the podcast. And I got to give you credit as well, because my surgeon, he was having a baby into the fall-ish. So I wanted to get it done after I got released from my team in Mississippi. Couldn't, because he's gone. And then he texted me like middle of April, hey man, I got a couple hours operating time. Do you want this? And then like a sign of God, whether you believe it or not, you texted me 5 minutes later, dude, my ankle issues are solved. It's like a miracle. I'm like, this has got to be a sign, because I'm having the same issues. My ankle's hurting as I was reading your text in my mind. So thank you for putting me over the edge to get the other one done. But about you though, so you get both the hips done. Can you kind of take me through the process of like what led you up to that?
I had dealt with hip pain going back as far as like Wilkes-Barre when I was there. So when I was like 20, 21, and it was manageable. It was manageable for a long time. It just got to a point where I was starting to mess up everything else. I was starting to get low back issues and starting to pull my groin a lot. Starting to get a lot of ankle stuff, and it just became a point where you try to get to the root of the problem, which in goaltending, I think for the most part tends to be the hips. That's kind of what steers the ship, I would say. That's probably the most in demand part of the body, playing goal. So I just figured it was time to get those fixed up and try to get a nice little reset. And I had a great experience with Dr. Kelly in New York. He seems to be one of the top. He's for sure one of the top guys in the world for doing this surgery. I've getting both of them done at the same time was definitely a lot early on for sure, but it definitely cut down my recovery time. I didn't think most people didn't think I'd play any games at all last year, and I was able to play a little bit at the end of the season on a conditioning stint. So that was a big goal of mine, and we definitely had to push it, but definitely felt nice to get that done and to play a couple of games at the end of the year. Doc Kelly's whole team and the team in Toronto, I had a great rehab experience, and now my hips haven't felt this good in a long time. So that was the goal, and that was the hope of getting the surgery done. And yes, like I said, it's starting to pay off now. I had it done in end of September, so I don't know where that takes us, 8-9 months, something like that, to this point. And it's starting to feel really, really good. So it has felt good for a while, but it's starting to feel really, really good. So I'm excited. I'm excited about how it's going to help me here going into the future.
Walk me through your experience. because I know what my experience was like.
Mm-hmm.
So you fly Toronto to New York. Christina comes with you.
Yeah.
Get it done by Dr. Kelly.
Yeah.
And you go to the OR, the hospital, wherever it is. Take me through that from there.
Yeah, I just showed up at the hospital. I was one of the later times going in, so I couldn't eat all morning. That was like the worst part about it. I didn't go.
Too?
What's that?
Any water or coffee?
I think they said I could have a little bit of water, but other than that, nothing. So that was the hardest part because I can't. I'm not one of these guys that can like not eat breakfast. I get super like grumpy if I don't eat. And I didn't go into the hospital until like 1 o'clock, I think it was. So Christina and I just kind of went for a little walk and had a nice little morning at the hotel. Went to the hospital, got all checked in, got in my outfit, whatever you call that. They had to come in, they had to shave my legs, which was also kind of devastating. I don't know, it just looked hilarious. And they only shaved like the top part, so like the bottom part was still super hairy, so it just looked hilarious.
You ever seen the 4-Year-Old Virgin, Steve Carell?
I've seen it a long time ago. Yeah, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, so yeah, they come in and shave your legs, which is an interesting experience, and then they start drawing. Doc Kelly comes in and draws on you wherever he's gonna do the incisions or whatever, and then you walk into the room, into the operating room, and yeah, the last thing I remember is they putting your you put your legs up onto this like machine or whatever, and that's the last thing I remember. They must have they slip your meds into the IV bag, I think, when you get in there, because there's no mask or nothing. I just passed out. So yeah, and then you wake up, whatever. I think for me, because they did both at the same time, so it was I guess what they told me is that they have to do one side and then fully clean their whole room and all the equipment and sanitize everything before they do the other side. So I think I was out for like 7 or 8 hours in total, I believe is what they said. And yeah, I woke up and yeah, you're just in the operating room, and a real funny thing that happened was that, so they give you an epidural too. So they give you a big needle in your low back that numbs you from the waist down, and so Christina makes the joke that I had an epidural before she ever did. She had 2 natural births, so she likes to make fun of me for that, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so they come in afterwards and they go, "Wiggle your toes for me," and I couldn't, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's okay. It's just the epidural hasn't worn off yet." And so yeah, after that, it was the first stretch was certainly the hardest. Having both done at the same time, it was tough to walk. I was able to walk out of there the next day with 2 crutches and very slowly with a lot of help. But yeah, I never really needed a wheelchair or anything like that. And then just a lot of rest that first 12 or so days is a lot of rest. Crutches for, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks I was on crutches, and then slow increments after that. You kind of know the drill. And then, yeah, some of the big milestones were getting back on the ice for the first time was, I think, around 4 months post-surgery, just with like a tracksuit and skates and just kind of wheeling around out there.
You sent me some clips, you going bar down.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, after such a long time, that was like exhilarating for me to get back on the ice, even just in a tracksuit. And I had like player gloves and a player stick and helmet with a visor, and I felt like I was playing forward out there. So I made the most of it. I had a lot of fun in that stretch for sure. That's like the first big milestone, and then I think I did that for a month, 4 weeks in a tracksuit, and then I was able to put my gear on around 5 months post surgery. And I think I got these timelines right. It all kind of blurred into one big period of time. But putting the gear on was the next milestone. But you stand up for, I think, 3 weeks or something like that. So full gear, but no butterfly, no pucks, anything like that. You're just skating for 3 weeks or so. and then I was able to try butterfly for the first time. I think I was around like 5.5 months, maybe something like that. Slowly ramp up from there, start taking shots, start dropping with some force, start trying the RVH. The RVH was the last thing I did.
The one thing that I'm having a hard time coming to terms with, at least like from hearing your stories, I know just having one hip done at a time, it was really hard those first 2-3 days after, where I'm putting maybe like 20% of the weight on the one leg and I'm very skeptical of it. But the other leg was 100%. So like all my weight goes on that one. That really kind of drove my rehab process. But for you not having that,
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin on that or like what that would feel like. But dude, 4 weeks is not bad.
Yeah, it's it was definitely not a great feeling as a 29-year-old man to be that kind of sedentary, I guess, for the first little bit. But in the grand scheme of things, it's definitely an advantage to get them both done at the same time, and in terms of timeline. And I think it probably helps you heal a little bit more down the middle too. You're not leaning into one leg or the other, because both sides are just as bad. So I think it helped in that respect as well. And my rehab process, I don't think could have gone any better with the team I had around me, Richie and Paul and Artie in Toronto. It's like I said earlier, it's just like they nailed it with the crew that they have there in Toronto. And I'm certainly not the only one to say that too. Those guys are the best. So I had a great rehab process and was able to play a couple games there, which was super exciting, because I didn't really think I would be able to. And yeah, here we are now. I'm feeling my hips haven't felt this good in a long time. So I'm glad I pulled the trigger and got it done.
Would you agree with this statement that once you get it done, the only regret you end up having is that you wish you did it sooner because it feels so good?
It's tough. When you're trying to navigate an NHL career, it's tough to find the right time to do something like that. You never want to take too much time off at the wrong time. So that was definitely part of it. So do I wish I did it sooner? For my own quality of life, yeah. But as far as my career went, I don't know if there was a better time to do it. If you do it at the wrong time, it can really hinder your career. And if those prime like money making years, if you do it at the wrong time, you can take yourself out of it. Just at the worst time. So I don't know. I think I'm a believer in everything happens for a reason, and I think the timing worked out really well.
Well, I know, like in our conversations, you'd mentioned some other guys that had gone through the same surgery, like a Laurent Brossoit or like a Thatcher Demko, kind of giving you a little bit of guidance with that as well.
Yeah, I didn't talk to either of those guys, but I talked to a couple guys who did have it done, and I talked to my trainer Adam Francilia. He's out of Kelowna, and he's a big, he's kind of the goalie guru of training, and he has a lot of clients, and he knows both of those guys well, and so he was kind of involved in a lot of rehabs for the surgery, and he was a huge resource to have for me. Also having, Doc Kelly and his team, like they are literally the top of the food chain in terms of this surgery, and he's got his own team that deals with specifically hip rehab. So it's not like just a regular rehab therapist. It's very specific. It's very hip focused, and they obviously do a heck of a job. So I was very, very fortunate, and to this day feel very thankful to have had a guy like Doc Kelly be able to do the procedure, and to have the people around me that I did, both Doc Kelly's team and the Leafs guys. I couldn't have been in better hands. So to this day and forever, we'll be thankful for that.
And so if you back it up though, so the ankle issues you were having, the groin issues, all that stuff linked back to the hips?
Well, it's impossible to prove that. But yeah, I think when your hips stop working properly, you compensate in other areas for sure. So, I think that was probably something of what was going on. But again, I don't know anything, so I'm not smart enough to know anything about that. I just knew that, I was just getting hurt hurt too much, and on plays that I felt like I shouldn't really be getting hurt on, and felt like it had something to do with like alignment or obviously the fact that I was compensating for the pain in my hips elsewhere. And so, yeah, just decided to finally pull the trigger and get it done. Happy I did.
Because I found through my experience, getting the first hip done, I remember like when I was kind of sobering up in the operating room, keep in mind I'm under a lot of drugs at the time, kind of sedated. My doc says you're going to start noticing some other things on the other side start to change and maybe some issues. And I'm thinking at the time, dude, I just got my first hip done. You're crazy, right? And then fast forward 5-6 months, the ankle issues started happening. I text you, and because you're the ankle doctor, you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly.
This was after your first surgery?
After the first one, yeah. Because on the first side, so I had my right hip done. I had so many groin and knee issues, and when the groin issues stopped, it just went all to the knee.
Was it on your right side or on your left side? The groin and knee issues?
On the right side.
On the same side as your surgery?
So up until January of 23, I never had an issue on my left side ever for anything. Right. Every injury was always on my right side. So get the hip done, and then all of a sudden my left ankle is killing me. And that one little spot kind of on the side, like the talus, that you kind of helped me out with. Any RVH integrations, sometimes going into a butterfly, you get too much far forward, starting to feel it. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward, we're at the point where I had to completely get rid of RVH integrations in practice, which was inspired by you. Just go boot on post, save some reps, and then save the actual hinging for games.
Right.
And then fast forward to the surgery now where I've got the other side done, those same ankle issues are gone. Keep in mind, I haven't skated yet, but those day-to-day same issues and same like feeling it that you described to me, that's gone. And maybe I can throw some video on the video version of the show too. My therapist, my physio guy, was taking me through a demonstration of how the internal rotation at the hip maxes out. So then the knee has to internally rotate, which is very unnatural. And then the ankle goes. And then at some point we're maxed out and something has to take the strain.
Yeah.
Think of almost like the Titanic kind of splitting in half.
Right. And yeah, well, that RVH, that's probably, I would say, the hardest move that we do in goaltending. Or the double RVH is probably the hardest, or whatever you call that. What do you call it? The soft
seal, yeah.
Soft seal. Yeah, there's different kind of names for all this stuff, but when you're in the RVH, like your ankle, your knee, and your hip are cranked, right? So when your hip is not going, then you got to cover that hole somehow, right? So if your hip's not doing it, then your knee is going to take on the burden, or your ankle. So yeah, for me, I had a lot of ankle issues coming from it because in that RVH, my hip would only go so far, and then you guys still got to cover that hole. Whatever you got to do to cover that hole, you got to cover that hole. And because my hip wasn't doing it, the rest of it, my ankle kind of started taking the brunt of it. And then I had a pretty decently bad groin tear on my left side. My right side was always the worst of the two hips, but they're both relatively painful. So I've been skating now. I guess that first skate with the full gear 5 months post would have been like February or something like that. So I skated a bunch at the end of the year and been skating a bunch this summer. As of now, no issues. And we're looking to keep that going.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. We do a new podcast every single Sunday during the season called Sling the Biscuit. It is a non-mainstream hockey podcast, so we talk about my hockey career, the minor pros, Spain, the Fed, you name it, all the stuff that you won't hear in the mainstream news.
Music,
pop culture,
politics, a little bit.
Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you soon.